welcome back to my channel Bookworms. So today I am bringing you something a little bit different than what I'm usually reading. This channel, you've probably noticed over the year, has been all about horror and extreme horror books. But today, as a horror reader, I am now trying to read more fantasy and testing myself in that world. I usually read epic fantasy, which you'll see of my Hob collection up there. I usually pick up those books that have political systems, worlds, and they have multiple books in the series. But I'm doing something different today. So for this video, I do have 3 books that I'm going to be telling you about. The first one is Impossible Creatures by Catherine Rundell. The next one is Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. The next one that I'm most terrified of reading, and that's Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. I don't know what it is. It's pink for a start. Not a big pink girly, but I also feel like this is going to be heavy on the romance. I haven't read anything about this book other than what people have said, and they seem to love it. So I thought I would give a well-loved series a try. And if I like this, hopefully I can read the other books that are in this series. Not a romance girly at all. I hate books that have romance in them, so I'm not sure how this is going to go down, but I'm going to give it a go, and I'm going to tell you about it when I'm reading it, what I think of it, and if it was the worst decision of my life. But anyway, these are the 3 books that I plan to be reading for this video and delving into the world of fantasy, different types of fantasy books. So I am kind of getting a wide range of reading done for this video, and yeah, I am excited, but I am nervous as well. It's not really my comfort zone when it comes to reading, so I'm going to do my best and hopefully I will love these. So I've now finished The Impossible Creatures, and I don't really know what to say other than this was incredible. This book broke me. I can't believe what I read. This was an incredible, adventure, but a cozy adventure story. And I wasn't expecting to cry when reading this. It's such a shock to me that I actually enjoyed this book as much as I did. When I picked it up, I did think I'd enjoy it a little bit, but not to the extent that I actually did enjoy this book. This was beautifully written, and the developmental journey that these characters go on, and whilst the plot is kind of easy to pinpoint, it was never an issue when reading it. I was reading this for enjoyment, and I really did test myself, and I threw myself into this book. I took it so slowly rather than rushing through, and I think it was incredible. It was so cozy and heart-wrenching at the same time. There's a part in this book that really made me tear up, and I was very emotional when I was reading it, and I don't usually get that way. So when a book can do that, it's really powerful. And yeah, I mean, I loved this. It was an incredible story, and it's my first 5-star read of 2024. It's got dragons, it's got mythical creatures, it's got a really nice found family storyline, and it's such an incredible read. Super fast paced, and yeah, you're constantly wanting more out of this, and the way the book is rounded out I thought was really good. And I can't believe how good this book was for my first fantasy book in this video. So with that being said, I highly recommend picking this up. I thoroughly enjoyed it. and it is such a change of pace from all of the horror books that I read. So for picking up a fantasy book and getting cozy, going on an adventure with these characters, it was such a fun ride. So my next read for this video is Under the Whispering Door. I have started this already because I did finish Impossible Creatures a couple of days ago, and I've just gotten around to filming my little clip. But I have started this. I am about 3/4 of the way through at this point. I'm listening along with the audiobook simply because I did struggle with TJ Klune's writing style in my last book that I read by this author. So I needed a boost, like an addition to this story. So yeah, I think it's really good. It's so interesting. You can tell that this is such a heart-wrenching storyline, and you can tell that it's very personal to the author. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing how this one ends. I do have about 150 pages left, so I will probably finish this in the next few days, and I will tell you everything about it without spoilers. So yeah, I will catch you in the next clip. So I'm back to tell you my thoughts on Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. This book was such a surprise for me. So this is a story about a guy who is coming to terms with his death, and it follows that journey on the afterlife side of his existence, and really learning and grasping how he is actually dead. And it's in this tea shop, so the setting is stunning, and that is such a cozy and comforting setting, and I feel like I definitely saw that in this story. I loved reading it. The atmosphere that was created through this was amazing. The audiobook definitely helped with this one. So I think the last book that I read was just a fluke. I do kind of really enjoy this author's writing. It was so lyrical and descriptive, and you could really put yourself in the shoes of our characters. And I thought that was incredible. The developmental nature of these characters were great, and the overall outcome was interesting. I didn't really know where it was going to go, but I am happy with the overall plot and the ending. So this one was a success, and I really loved reading it. I really love the satire nature of this. So I really loved the elements of grief and like learning how he has to live as this new ghostly person. So that was quite interesting, and I think this is a beautiful story to read. And I really want to read The House of Cerulean Sea. I think that's the one. The House in the Cerulean Sea, because this really cemented that I need to try more from this author. And with that, I'm going to stop talking and give you a chance to read this yourself if you haven't read it. I highly recommend it. As somebody who doesn't read fantasy all that much and is kind of dipping your toes in, it's definitely a good starting point. So yeah, I really love this book. Okay, so I just sat down to film my thoughts, my initial thoughts on the first chapter of Once Upon a Broken Heart with my new mics, and realized that holding it creates a lot of background noise. So I've completely scrapped that clip, which was 10 minutes of me rambling on about this story, So we're going to do that again and just pretend like it didn't happen. So I've not attached the mic. I'm hoping that this gets easier. You wouldn't think that I work in marketing and I do videography on the day to day. So I have just finished the first chapter of Once Upon a Broken Heart. I started this with the intention that I wasn't going to enjoy it, but the writing style in here was incredible. I kind of found that it was more lyrical and descriptive. I was really getting into the scenes, which was really good and interesting to read. And we learn about Evangeline and her backstory, the things that she goes through, and what brought her to the Fates and wanting to have something changed. The romance so far isn't heavy. We have little bits and pieces. So that was good. I know it's only the beginning and it could get a lot stronger, which I'm not looking forward to. But I am still hopeful that I will enjoy the rest of the book. Um, I'm going to put it down. So this story, when I was reading it, kind of reminded me of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. So that story follows Addie, who was at her lowest point in her life and kind of prays to a god, a deity, an entity, to have her life changed. And at that lowest point, they take advantage, and she is then cursed for the rest of her life. And Evangeline in Once Upon a Broken Heart is facing something that she thinks is like the worst of her life, with her parents being gone and her boyfriend being engaged to her stepsister. She takes that journey to the Fates Church to pray and offer something to the Fates to have this curse removed, so she can be with the one that she loves. So it seems to me like both Addie and Evangeline are both at a point in their lives where they are really low and they seek out this extreme measure, as a way to cope with what's happening, or at least try and change the way their life is proceeding. So I had that similarity, and I wonder how much of that continues. But I am intrigued, so that's a good point to make. Usually, first chapters have me really bored, and I just want to skip through the story to get into the actual nitty gritty of a story. But with this book, I didn't feel that way. Stephanie Garber was really setting us up for what's to come, and I think the first chapter does really well in setting this scene, getting us aware of the political systems, especially within those 15 pages. I feel like I know how the fates work and why she is doing what she's doing. But of course, that is going to expand further in this book and possibly in the series. But currently, it is setting up to be a good read. It seems like there could be elements of a darker element. I'm not sure how much that expands, but as a horror dark fantasy reader, I do see elements of that blossoming in the first chapter. As I do believe it's a romantasy book, there may be very minimal dark elements. So I'm taking it where I can. Um, but I am still very intrigued to continue the book and see where my thoughts kind of go and if it's something that I want to continue. I do see some elements of the Cinderella story in this as well. So when I say about the stepsister and the stepmom, her dad dies, and that's obviously similar to the Cinderella story. So Evangeline, obviously her dad passes away along with her mum,
And then she realizes that her stepmom doesn't really like her all that much and thinks that she put the curse on her or Luke, um, in order to have her daughter marry Luke to gain his titles in the future. So it does scream Cinderella in that sense. So I'm wondering how much of an inspiration it has been in this story and how much more we get of Cinderella through this. Um, but yeah, I'm still intrigued. I do want to continue reading the book. So I think the next time you hear from me, I will be about halfway through this or 3/4 of the way through the story. If I don't DNF it, I'm hoping it's not a DNF. It's currently setting up to be a decent read, so I'm excited to continue and see where it goes. So yeah, I will check back in with you soon. So I'm back to give you a little update on Once Upon a Broken Heart. So this book has been a surprise for me. I wasn't expecting to love this as much as I have. Um, yeah, I wasn't expecting to love this as much as I have been. This story is like a fairy tale, and it's got a way of pulling you into the story. As somebody who doesn't read fairy tales and romantasy based books, I'm quite surprised that I actually enjoy this. But I I'm halfway through. Don't know if I told you that. I'm at the halfway mark, and yeah, I mean it is fast moving. Um, the story starts off, like I said, with Evangeline. Um, I'm not entirely sure if that's how you pronounce the character's name. I've heard people say Evangeline, but that in my accent just sounds wrong. So I'm saying Evangeline, because that's how I'm reading it. So anyway, she is going through the divorce period of her life, and her stepsister is marrying somebody that she loves, and so she's trying everything in her power to reverse that and get the person she loves back. And so she makes a deal with a fit. So from there, the story then snowballs, and we're constantly moving in this story, um, which I don't mind. I enjoy fast paced stories, but in terms of realism, I'm not sure how much. Well, when I first read this, it got to a point where we were only 100 and so pages in, and she's taking a trip to the next kingdom or the next island and to meet the prince. So they do that. It takes a week to get there. And then within 2 days, spoiler by the way, if you haven't read this, maybe leave. But she gets married in 2 days. Gets engaged to the guy 2 days after meeting him. So when I first read that, I literally thought, well, that's not realistic. When does that ever happen? Then I remembered I'm reading a romantasy. And so if I put my brain on and realize that, well, he's under a spell because she's made a deal with a fit called Jax. So my then brain went, oh yeah, it's part of the story, it's not real life. You're not reading a thriller anymore. You're reading a romantasy book that is set around making a deal with a fate who main fun is chaos, and it literally says on the top, never make a deal with a fate. So nothing goes right when you do that. So piecing it together, it then did make more sense to me. I forgot at one point that I was reading this book and it wasn't my usual reads. So taking that into account, it kind of made more sense to me. And then I remembered that maybe he's under a curse and that sort of thing. So overall, I'm actually enjoying it. That whole me thinking it wasn't real realistic kind of threw me off slightly, but then I made myself realize that that's something that happens in these types of books. So it's based around a fairy tale-esque story, and it's really good. I wasn't expecting to like this. I am like so shocked that I'm enjoying this book. I'm flying through it. I started this yesterday and I'm halfway through the book already. I know I said that I was going to take books more slowly and get into the world and enjoy them, but this book is just so easy to read. It's so fast, it's immersive, and I'm actually liking it. Yeah. I don't know what else to say at this point. I'm so excited to see the next part. Part 3 is coming up soon, which is titled Chaos. So I'm intrigued and I can't wait to see the ending of this. So finally finished Once Upon a Broken Heart. This was incredible. I really loved the outcome and the entire story. I'm so surprised that I enjoyed this one as much as I did. I really loved Evangeline and Jax throughout this book and that developmental nature and how they have grown to love/hate each other. It's a really interesting dynamic that they have. And yeah, I mean, I don't remember the last thing that I told you. I think I was like halfway through at that point, but I was kind of intrigued to see how it was going to turn and if there was any plot twists or turning points in the story. And there definitely was. I've thoroughly enjoyed reading it, and I think that the next one is going to answer a lot of the questions that I've gained since reading this book. And I'm really surprised that I actually liked this story and really want to pick up the next one. I was tempted to actually buy the second book in the shop literally like yesterday, but decided against it. I'm going to wait and read some other fantasies in the meantime, and then come back to this. But this definitely was a great read. So that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching and sticking to the end. Let me know in the comments what fantasy books you would want to see me read and talk to you about in future videos. But until next time, keep your pages turning and embrace the darkness. Bye.